I'm going to tell my stalking story. Not that any of you would really probably care to hear it, but I want my posterity to hear it because my grandchildren do not really, maybe they have not really heard the story. And my sister told me, well, if nobody else listens to your videos, at least your children and your grandchildren will listen to them. Maybe. When I'm dead and gone, they'll probably want to see him then. If I'm still on here, when you die, do your YouTube videos go away? I don't know. They say what you record and put out there is there forever, so maybe they can find it and listen. And then I'll get 1,000 subscribers and likes and 40,000 views from my posterity. And then I'll make it in life. I'll go viral when I'm dead. All right, my stalking story. I got married the first marriage when I was very young, and he's still alive, and he's my children's father, so I don't want to go into that marriage too much. It's just that he fell out of love with me, and it didn't work, and so we divorced. And I was left with 4 boys in 4 years. You know, when my fourth son was born, my oldest one was 5. So it was and that's probably one reason why the marriage failed, because we were involved with a lot of medical debt and the pressures. Anyway, it divorced. So I was a single mom. I moved to the town where my parents lived and my 2 sisters and my younger brother, so I could have a lot of support system because I needed that. So I always went to church, took my children to church. I always hear some women say, oh, I couldn't go to church because I had my baby. It's too hard to take to church. Oh, I had 4 children. I went to church every Sunday. I don't want to hear that. So anyway, I met this man at church, and he was 15 years older than me, but he seemed really cute. His name was Foster Wright. He was not the right man, though. But I married him. I ended up marrying him, and the day after we got back from getting married in Reno, don't go to Reno to get married. It's not ever going to work. Anyway, the day I got back from Reno, he didn't come home that night. And so I got a phone call from his stepdaughter, and she said, oh, Foster's here, and he got drunk, and he's passed out, so just let him sleep here. Well, I was just shocked. What? So he told me he never wanted to drink again because, you know, he joined the church and he wasn't going to drink again. Well, I had grown up in such a sheltered home that I didn't know anything about alcoholism. I don't remember them teaching us anything about that in health class in school, about a real alcoholic and what happens. Well, the next 7 years, almost 8, I was married to him, I learned about alcoholism. It's not something that's easy to live with, easy to deal with, or that you would want to wish upon your worst enemy. All right, so we married. Here, I'm going to show you a picture of him because, you know, you want to have that picture visual in your mind, and my grandchildren would want to see the picture of it's their grandpa. All right. He was 15 years older than me. Look at me, I look kind of like vague. I have a vague look on my face. But back then they didn't do too many, oh, I was younger. They didn't do too many retakes. But anyway, he was older than my first husband, 15 years older, and he seemed so mature and wiser, and I thought, oh, he will never fall out of love with me, because his first 4 wives, and you know what 4 divorces mean? My brother told me this. There'll be a 5th, and that's true. Anyway, I thought all those other wives he met in the bar, but he met me at church. So I am going to be different than them. And that's why he fell in love with me too, because I stayed at home with my children, baked cookies, was a mom that, you know, he'd never lived with a lady like that before. So that was one reason why he hooked up with me. But anyway, I didn't realize that an alcoholic is always going to want to drink eventually again, and always have that desire, which he did. So then, and it's a progressive thing, you know, they start out and then they get worse and worse, and that's what happened. And things weren't, he was a mean drunk, so he broke a lot of things when he would be drunk. I ended up packing away all my little mementos, the things I inherited from my grandpa and stuff. I put him away because he would throw my things and break them. He wouldn't touch his. Somehow he just would break mine. I wonder why. But anyway, so I was kind of scared of him. And the first time he hit me, I hit him back. And then I learned, ooh, some men, that brings out the rage because they're manly and they think they're stronger than you and they're going to put you in your place. Don't ever hit back. So I learned right from the beginning, do not hit back. Just, you know, be submissive and, okay, I promise him anything and, you know, curl up in a ball and act like, you know, you're dead so he'll leave you alone. All right. So I was ready to divorce him. I didn't want to live like this anymore. So I was getting ready to divorce him. I got pregnant. Then I could not do a pregnancy with 4 kids alone. And it was a humiliating thing. I didn't really confess all of this to my family. People get it wrong. They think that you're going to whine about it to friends because you want help and then somebody will come rescue you. You don't want to admit you're wrong. And you don't want to admit that there's a problem. So I never really told them. They knew a few things, but not, you know, how severe it was. So anyway, I learned how to live with him. I protected my children as much as I could from seeing things. I would never let him bring alcohol into my home. I did not. One time he brought some alcohol and put it in the refrigerator, and I took it and threw it out the door, and it exploded everywhere because I said, don't you ever bring alcohol in my home again. I do not want around my children. So I would never allow that. So he would drink at, he was another clue, a Harley Davidson motorcycle guy. Wing tattoo, Harley wings, a tattoo on his shoulder. And he had this motorcycle shop that he repaired them to. So he would drink there, which was good, but he would come home, or he'd go to the bars and he'd come home at 2 in the morning. My little boys were sleeping by then, so that was good. They didn't see, I tried to protect them from it, although they did see plenty that I wish they hadn't of through the years. All right, so I was pregnant. So he would drink 3 days on and be so drunk and sick that he'd take a couple days off and not drink. So then I always said he was like Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He was either very, very good or very, very bad. Well, he was raised in military school, which really made him worse because his way of raising children was ridiculous. He thinks the oldest one is in charge, like in the military, and then the other ones should get punished. I mean, the oldest one should get punished when the younger ones do something wrong. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to teach my boys to love each other and not touch each other and fight and stuff, you know? I don't want them to be like a military raising. I'm doing it with love. So that was always a problem, his discipline, and I always had to keep an eye because I'm not a disciplining person like he was. And, you know, to me, you take something away from them that they like, and that's their punishment, not beating or anything. But he was mean. Some people are mean, and I don't have meanness in me, so it was hard. It was so hard. And so I said, as soon as my baby's born, I'm going to divorce him. Well, then my baby died, and it was so horrible for me. And it was a little boy, my 5th boy. I didn't care if I had a 5th boy. I just wanted him to live. And I will tell you about his death in another video for my posterity, not necessarily for the world to hear, but maybe they need to hear. Because I always thought I went through it and I could help somebody else that loses a baby, but no one else lost one for years except me. Well, it wasn't fair, but anyway, I had a really hard time, and I couldn't divorce him after then because I just couldn't face being alone. And, you know, he hugged me, and he you know, filled a need that I couldn't do by myself. So we decided my I just missed that little baby, and it was so hard, and I would listen to music and cry, and it was really hard. And I remember thinking, he's not inside me anymore. Where is he? He's gone, you know. It was just really hard. If you have ever been through it, you know. I know it's some people can't comprehend why you would be sad because you didn't really know his personality or anything. He lived 10 hours, but I'll tell about that story another time. Anyway, so my husband, Foster, decided to get really healthy and sobered up because we wanted to have another baby. It was like that was going to be the only way to heal my heart. It was like you, your arms are so empty and you feel so empty inside. You just want that baby. So I just knew there was another one for me. So 6 months later, I found out I was pregnant, and I didn't worry because I gave a baby to Heavenly Father. I knew Heavenly Father now would give me a baby. So I wasn't worried one bit. The midwife, I always went to a midwife. She wanted me to have an ultrasound and make sure everything was okay. I said, no, I don't have to. I know everything's fine. And she said, okay, I'll listen to you because I know mothers know no more than I do sometimes. So anyway, I say anyway a lot. I'll try not to. So we went along with the pregnancy, and my beautiful baby girl was born. I didn't care if it was a girl or boy, like I said. I just wanted her to live and be healthy and beautiful. And at the time when she was born, she wasn't very beautiful because she was kind of blonde and scrawny. I think dark-haired babies are prettier. But I didn't care because it was a girl, and she was born at December, and so then I just knew what Mother Mary felt like when Jesus was born at Christmas, and everyone came to visit and give gifts, and they were thrilled that I finally had a girl, and Foster was so thrilled with her. He called her Huffer Puffer, and he would tell other women, I know when you look at my baby, you don't like yours anymore and you want to have my baby because my baby's prettier than yours. And I would tell him, no, every mother thinks their baby's beautiful. Stop saying that to people. But he was totally in love with her. So we went along for about 2 years, and he didn't drink, and things were, you know, as good as it could be with a man who thinks children should be raised like in the military. So anyway, then I said anyway again. Then he started drinking again. And I know it's hard to remember every little thing, but I know one day, it was a Saturday, and I sewed for a living at home, and so I was watching TV in my bedroom and sewing. That's where I always did it. Well, he wanted me to go in the living room and watch some show with him, football game or something. Well, I didn't want to because I had to do my sewing, and I don't like football. Well, he came in there all mad and picked up my little black and white TV and threw it through the window. Broke the window and then started breaking everything, and he was so mad because, you know, he's not getting his way. So the police were called, but the police said, no, we can't do anything about it because he could break his own stuff. There's no law against breaking your own stuff. And I said, well, what about the apartment window? Well, you could tell your landlord, but they'd probably evict you. So I didn't want to report it to them. But he was just really bad. And then that night, he hit me again or something. I don't really remember what. But I ended up getting a restraining order against him. And we had a fishing boat. Commercial fishing boat is what he did. So he could go sleep on that boat because it, you know, it had bunks and stuff in it and a kitchen and everything. So I got a restraining order, and he went and lived there. And I know during all these times I had gotten 2 restraining orders with him in my life with him. Well, then he decided to go to counseling and, you know, get sober again and get all better and come back. And, you know, I loved him. I wanted to be married to him. So I believed him, and he was I'll never drink again. They always tell you that, right? I'll never hit you again. I'm sorry. I don't remember what I did. They always say that too. I don't know if they do or not, because I never have drank. I've never tasted alcohol in my life. That's the truth. People don't believe me. but I never have. No one ever offered it to me when I was a teenager, and I wasn't going to start drinking when I had children and pregnant all the time, so I've never drank. And I don't really care. I don't really want to, because alcohol is my worst enemy of the world. My dream, I used to want to go into a liquor store with a gun and shoot every bottle of alcohol. That would be my fantasy to do, and just love shooting it all. How many men are in prison because of alcohol and what they did when they were drunk? And DUIs, which he got many, and I always had to be the driver, and lost his license, and oh, the stories I could tell that some people just wouldn't even figure out, because they don't have this kind of life. I even went to Al-Anon thinking that will help. No, it doesn't help. It helps you try to live with the person that's an alcoholic. It doesn't cure them, doesn't make anything really better or stop. And I wasn't real impressed, because you'd go to Al-Anon, and then all those women you could tell had addiction problems too. So it wasn't my cup of tea. I don't drink tea either, though. But anyway, back to my story. So then, pregnant again. So this time, he drank. I'm trying to remember if he drank during that pregnancy. I think he did. He was drinking. And I said once again, I'm going to divorce him when the baby's born. So I was getting sick of it by then. And I found out when you lose hope like I lost hope in him ever quitting. Once you lose hope, you give up and don't even want to fight for it anymore and make it work. And I lost hope. So he got another DUI and had to go to court, and the attorney told him, have your wife and your little baby girl go with you to court and sit there so the judge can look at, you're a family man and you need your license, and dress really good and everything. Well, okay, I did it. So I put on my blue outfit, because you look good in blue, and dressed my little girl in pink with her curls, and we went to the court, and I sat in this little courtroom. I think we were the only ones there. And here they brought in Foster in shackles. His legs were shackled, handcuffed, in the prison orange, and his slides that didn't fit him, and he's walking in. He's a big guy too, so, and I'm looking at him. And then I look at the judge, who's an upstanding citizen with a trim haircut and no tattoos, and well, I didn't know he didn't have tattoos, but I didn't think he would. And because back then, tattoos were an image, a tough boy, bad boy image kind of thing. If you were in the service, you got tattoos, Anyway, not just everybody had them like nowadays. Women didn't even hardly have them. So I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking, I'm married to a criminal, and I look at the judge, and I think, I should be married to the judge. Not that judge, but somebody that's upstanding and good. I am better than this, than to be married to someone who just brings me down and has a life of police coming to your door and jail and fine, all of that crap. Anyway, so I just lost hope, and I was ready to divorce him. But pregnant again, I had to wait. So after my baby was born, I have to tell you, this is going to be another video. When I was in labor, he had been drunk the day before and everything. Well, when I got into labor, he had a hangover. He didn't want to take me to the midwife clinic because he didn't feel good. So he would say, you're not in labor, you're not hurting bad enough, we're just going to wait, see what happens. Well, this is my 7th baby. I'm not going to take 12 hours having my 7th child. And when you get in transition, nowadays they have epidurals, so you don't go through the stages like a natural birth. And when I got into transition, I couldn't make any decisions, and I'm just breathing and, concentrating on this baby coming out. Well, he says, we're going now, it's time to go, and he puts me in the car. We had a Volkswagen station wagon, And if you have a baby in a Volkswagen, the Volkswagen company pays you $300. No, they give the baby $300 gift certificate or a bond back then. I think I should have got it because I was the one who went, was going through the pain. Yes, I had the baby on the way to the clinic in the car. I'm going to tell about that delivery in another video. You're going to love hearing about that. So she was born by the ocean on top of Cape Sebastian by Herman Road, but we couldn't name her Sebastian or Herman, so we named her Hillary because she was born on top of the hill. Oh, and I was so happy that my daughter had a sister because I love my sisters and I wanted her to have a sister. And I'll show you a picture of my little girls. At Easter, I made matching dresses, and they were blonde, like their dad blonde, not like me. I always wanted to be blonde, and I dyed my hair blonde once, and everybody said no, so I had to go back dark, but they're my dream come true. And, he was a angry man with big problems, but I got my little girls out of him, and they've made my life complete with my 4 boys and my 2 daughters. And my little girls, those boys, the brothers, loved them so much. And they were teenagers by then. And they were such good big brothers to the little girls and spoil them and get them to rock them to sleep. And him and him were especially good babysitters, and they loved their brothers. And their dad, my ex-husband, he told them one time, my boys, when they went for their visitation, well, those sisters are really just your half-sisters. And they came home telling me, my sisters are just our half-sisters. And I said, no, they aren't. Because how do you feel inside? Do they feel like your half-sister? And they said, no, they feel like our whole sisters. And I said, you all came from the same place inside of me, and you all are whole sisters and brothers. So anyway, my children were my whole highlight of my life. Growing up, all I ever wanted to be was a mother. And I loved my children so much, and I didn't want them to live with this horrible life of an alcoholism. And when they're drunk, they say anything, and they do everything, and there's no limits. They don't have a control over what they say and do, and it's just a horrible life. So I was ready to divorce him. And so one night, he came home drunk, and my oldest son, he had a job in a restaurant in town. And so he would ride his bike, and then after the restaurant was closed, he would call me and could I go get him, because we lived on a highway, and I didn't want him riding his bike on the highway at night because, drunks, whatever. I didn't want anything to happen to him. And I said, just call me, I'll come and get you. So he did, and I called him. He called me. I went and got him, came home. Well, Foster had come home while I was gone. So when I came in, he just had a fit. If you are old enough to have a job on your own, then you're old enough to find your own way to and from work. You're not a mommy's boy and having your mom pick you up. And so he stood up and like he was going to hit Chad. So then I came out and stood up for my son, no, you don't do this. And then he turned on me and was hitting me. So then my son, of course, is not going to stand around and look at his mother getting hit. So he tried to stop it, and then it was going to be a big fight. So then Chad ran out of the house and got on Foster's motorcycle and rode to the police station. So then the police came and they arrested him for hitting us and domestic violence, and he was gone. And so he could go live on his boat, and I was filed for divorce. End of story. No, it wasn't. Here's the stalking. Oh, it's 25 minutes, and now we're into the stalking story. Ugh. All right, so he didn't want a divorce because he had it good, and he realized that. I was a stable woman that kept the life going. I guess he loved me. But anyway, and he loved his little daughters. He didn't want to leave them. But anyway, I filed for divorce and had a restraining order against him. Well, he kept following me everywhere I went. And I would see him always following me. And then he told me, if I ever see you in the car with another man, I will hit us all straight on and kill us all. Oh, well, that's kind of frightening. And I didn't have a boyfriend. I wasn't looking for a man, because I want to tell you this. You tell other people this. Being married to the wrong person is worse than being single. So don't, just marry anybody so you'll be married. Don't, being single and alone, I found out, is not bad. I went to counseling and I learned, why did I love a husband that beat me, and why did I, want that? So the counseling really helped me to get through the divorce. All right, so then another time he said, if I know that you have a man in bed with you, my bedroom faced the road, on a dead-end road. That was the bad part. The house was dead-end street. He goes, I will take my car and run through the bedroom window, the bedroom wall, and kill you too. And I'm just like, well, I don't have a boyfriend, so, leave me alone. So he would find my phone number and he'd call me and call me and call me. And so then the first time you change your phone number is free. The second and third and fourth time, you got to pay. Their landlines back then, and you couldn't just get a new number. And so he would get my phone number, like he'd go to church from the church directory and get my number from that church. Or one time he got a job at the dentist's office that my children went to and got my phone number. He was a janitor, and he got my number from them. Changed my number again, and it was just, we had answering machines back then, and he would just leave a million answering machines. Well, I didn't want him to go to jail. I just wanted to be divorced and have him leave me alone. So then, one time, and several times, I'm laying in bed at night, and I hear him out my window saying, I love you. Daddy loves you. And it was so frightening. And then one time I came home and he wrote on my wall in my bedroom, I love you, Daddy loves you. That's sick and scary. And I didn't even know how he got in my house, because I was very good at locking things. Well, one day the DA, district attorney of our town, called me and said, we have word that Foster is after you. You need to go spend the night somewhere else. I'm like, oh, why? And anyway, packing up for my 6 kids to go spend the night is not an easy thing to do. We went and spent the night with my sister. And after that night, I'm just like, I can't put my sister through this problem of my 6 kids and feeding us and making messes. Anyway, I said, I'm not doing that anymore. I will just call the police if he comes to my house. So I went back home. Well, at this time I was in the community theater, active, doing the plays, and that was kind of my outlet in life, being single. And some of my children were in the plays, and I was the costume designer, so it was really a kind of a fun social thing for me. And every time I came out, I would look, and there he is, some way far away, watching me. I'd have men walk me out to old men, walk me out to my car, to be safe. All right, this one morning, my sister was single too, so we're talking on the phone together. And she said, we were talking about the neighbor boy that I babysat sometime. His name was Keith. Anyway, we talked about it and everything, and then I said, okay, we gotta go. And so I got up, and my little girl, she was like 2.5, and she was still sleeping. She always slept in. And so I got up to get dressed. Well, I came to the bedroom door, and here's Foster standing there. I don't know how he got in my house. He was had a cup of hot coffee, and who is Keith? And I could see the rage in his eyes. He took the cup and he smashed it against my head. And somehow he got me. I know I had a big wound on my head, right? He got me down on the ground, and then he started to strangle me. And you lose thought of, you can't remember really what happened because I guess your adrenaline's going and stuff, so it's kind of hard to remember. But I know there was a wood bench there, a little bench, footstool, wood one, and he was strangling me and hitting my head against that bench, the back of my head, saying, "Marry me, you bitch, marry me." And he kept doing that over and over, strangling tighter and tighter. If you'd ever had the trying to breathe feeling, it's bad. That's all you can think of is you want breath. And I'm telling him, okay, I'm trying to say, all right, I'll marry you, but he's strangling more and more. And, I don't know how long it takes. 5 minutes, I don't know how long it takes to strangle somebody. But of course, I blacked out, passed out, and I don't even know what was happening then. Because it was just like everything went black. And so I don't know how long it was or anything, but then I woke up again. I woke up, and there's my little girl looking at me, which that's why he stopped strangling me, because he looked up and saw his daughter witnessing this whole scene, and she started crying. And of course, I was crying and bleeding out of my mouth. I don't know where, my nose or my head, I don't know where, but I had blood. So anyway, he got up to go get a wash rag because, he came to his senses. And then the phone rang. So I picked it up. It was my sister, and she said, "Are you okay?" Because she knew I was crying. "Are you okay?" And I said, "No." And she goes, "Do you need me to call the police?" I said, "Yes." Anyway, then I hung up before he came back because I was scared. And then he's taking the wash rag and wiping the blood off, saying, "I'm going to stay here all day and take care of you. I'm sorry, I will never do it again." Anyway, the police came, and of course they saw me, and they arrested him. What was horrible was they took pictures of me. Where are those pictures today of me bloody and in my nightgown? And I hated it. So my mother came over. My boys were in school, and here's the thing that's funny. I like to look at humor in everything. And here's what was funny. While he's strangling me, you always say that sorry, I'm looking out of my bifocal. I always have to do that. While he's strangling me, my thoughts, they say that your life flashes before your face, your mind, before you die, when you're dying. That didn't happen to me. When I think I'm dying, I was thinking, because it was right the day before Thanksgiving, and I'm thinking, oh no, I'm dying. Who's going to make the pies? Of course, your brain thinks faster than you speak, but I'm thinking, oh no, because I was supposed to make like 8 pies for the family, dinner. That's my last thoughts before I thought I was going to die. Who's going to make the pies? And then one time I was in a cart sliding on the ice, thought I was going to die. That time I thought, I forgot to take hamburger out of the freezer. Why do I always think about food before I think I'm going to die? I still laugh at that. Who's going to make the pies was my last thought before I passed out. While I'm trying to say I will marry him. And who ever got a marriage proposal like that? Marry me, you bitch. Marry me. I bet no one had had a marriage proposal like that. Anyway, he went to jail. I survived. I had to go to the doctor that afternoon, and they had to document it, for the court thing. And he got in, because he hit me with the cup. That was like a felony assault or something. I don't know. You have to, if you use a tool to beat somebody up. And then he settled out of court, so we didn't have to go to court about it, which I was so thankful for. I was so thankful that Heavenly Father was watching over me, and I didn't die because I needed to raise my children. They didn't have it. You know, I was their stable person, and I loved them more than anybody. So, you know, I couldn't die, but I survived, and I got to raise my children, and he went to jail for 14 months, prison, Pendleton, Oregon prison, for 14 months. And by the time he got out, he was pretty much over me. And so I didn't have to worry. He moved to I think his parole made him move to another town. He couldn't move back to my town. And then I found my wonderful husband I have now. In a personal ad, I got to tell you that whole story because, you know, that was a miracle too, that Heavenly Father watching over me story. And that is why I pray every day and night that I will have strength to get through this life, that I will be guided to make right choices and decisions. And we all need to do that, because without prayer in our life, without Heavenly Father and Jesus, your life will be miserable. If I hadn't had that to lean on through all the trials I went through, I couldn't have made it, because I don't know how many times. I am a very weak, small person, and if I did not have prayer to help me through it, and Heavenly Father to guide me, and I would never have made it. I never did drugs. Some of my kids ask me, why, Mom, I'm surprised you never did drugs and drank. No, I didn't have to, because I leaned on Heavenly Father. And I want my posterity to know that if they are going astray and they think that drinking and living that wild life is fun, it's not. And you can't come out of it okay unless you rely on God and your Heavenly Father. And I know that that's the only way to live. All right, that's my stalking story, but I lived and survived when I could have been killed with that. People die of being strangled.